Today's morning coffee vinyl side, Payola's Hammer on a Drum, 1983. Today we bring you another morning coffee vinyl side Vancouver Van-Tastic Vinyl selection, a vinyl album series that features albums from Vancouver-based artists or albums with significant Vancouver connections. The Payolas were a Vancouver-based band fronted by British expat Paul Hyde and his Victoria, BC school chum and musical partner Bob Rock. Finding themselves in Vancouver after Bob Rock accepted an apprenticeship as an assistant engineer at Vancouver's famed Little Mountain Sound, the pair formed the Payolas in the late 70s, featuring Paul out front on the mic and Rock stage right on guitar. The Payolas, heavily influenced by the burgeoning Vancouver punk scene and the transatlantic sounds of British post-punk and new wave with the requisite reggae and ska influences, had privileged access to all the resources necessary to propel a music career forward in Canada. After cutting their teeth gigging, and in parallel with Rock developing in his career as an engineer and producer, they recorded and released an independent demo and EP which eventually landed them a distribution deal and recording deal with A&M Records. Hammer on a Drum was the Payola's third LP release after their door-opening 1979 single China Boys and 1980 four-song EP introducing the Payolas. Their 1981 debut LP, In a Place Like This, was a solid effort, but it was their second LP, and first with the famed Bowie alum Mick Ronson as producer, No Stranger to Danger, that broke them into the Canadian mainstream. Many credit Mick's enthusiasm for the band, along with Mike Fraser's and Roger Monk's crystal clear engineering, and of course Bob Rock, for the success of the recording, but the songwriting was equally top shelf, and No Stranger to Danger remains as fresh today as it did in 1981. The band enjoyed a huge push from Canadian radio at the time, as Eyes of a Stranger, the album's breakout single, made them Canadian and Vancouver musical legends. So understandably, all eyes were on the Payolas when it came time to record this, the follow-up. Now, side one is the stronger side here. Its opening song, I'll Find Another, features a very good Hyde vocal performance with the gang call-and-response verses that, along with Paul's Yorkshire accent, give credence to the Payola's distinctly British pedigree. The bar is raised higher when the second song, Where Is This Love, rolls, featuring great lyrics and seeing Paul really deliver more vocal nuance. It's no wonder the song was one of the album's most popular. As the album unfolds, new wave really gives way to a more pop-influenced ska sound. And by the time we get to the album's big duet, Never Said I Loved You, with Canadian chanteuse Carol Pope, you'd not be mistaken in concluding that the influence of the Specials loomed large over the Payolas. The whole album unfolds like a promise delivered. Everything that was asked for or expected here was delivered on perfectly, and that is the album's greatest achievement, but it also presents ahistorically as bittersweet. It's a lot like that thing that happens when we're kids, and we're excited about something and desperately ask for it for Christmas, only to cast it aside after the initial luster on Christmas morning fades. The musical landscape was changing in Vancouver, and this album, though clearly following the trajectory the band had established for itself beautifully, left them no other direction to go. It was like the perfect wave of the last set of the day closing out to a beautiful finish. Now, David Foster would try his hand producing the Payola's fourth studio album, but there was nowhere to go when you're already at your destination. It was a good faith effort, but they'd be dropped by A&M in 85 and rebrand for an encore in 87 with Bruce Fairbairn at the helm. But the story was already over. That was just really an epilogue. If you're in Vancouver, You should be digging for this album at Neptune or Zulu. Go ask for it, go find it. The biggest shame for bands like the Payolas is that their creative works are missing from the National Archives. This album only exists as an album on vinyl and cassettes. It was never released as a CD, and you can't find it on the streaming services. If the Canadian government wants to support Canadian music, they'd best start digitizing the catalogs of Canadian recording artists for permanent and perpetual access for all Canadians on Canadian-owned servers, instead of trusting its curation to the whims of Silicon Valley's tech bros and elites. I want to be able to hear it all. That's where the riches that are part of our national identity lie, our cultural products and artifacts. Now, this wasn't the end of the Hyde Rock partnership, and I was actually there when they debuted Rockin' Hyde at Music West in Vancouver in '87, and I saw it all go down. A story for another time. Hyde would later pursue a solo career, and rock, of course, would become an ubermensch as far as music production goes. But there's still something magical about the Payola's whole catalog. From the brash and irreverent China Boys to the ephemeral Dirty Water, that you need to know if you want to better understand this great city we call Vancouver. Now go out there and get digging.